Hey guys, welcome back to the homestead. Today we're gonna harvest some vegetables. Look at how much bigger these ducks have gotten over the past couple months. They're still kind of ducklings, but they're about halfway there to their full size that they're gonna be when they're fully grown. But they are doing so well in this chicken tractor. I'm also gonna talk about microclimate gardening. If you've never heard of it, then make sure you stay tuned to the rest of the video so we can go over the benefits of implementing some microclimates in your garden. So we have some beets here that I'm going to harvest. I'm gonna see what else we have in here that I can harvest, but I'm gonna get mostly all of the beets out of here today. If there are any really small ones, I'll just leave them in there. Like this one here, it's pretty small, so I'm gonna just stick it back in the ground and it should keep growing. But you can see the beets ready. This is a big gnarly one. Another. I might as well just pull out some of the turnips while I'm here. I definitely don't want them going to seed, so I'm just gonna pull out a couple and see how they look. Oh, they've got a lot of roots in here. Wow. That is a huge plant. Get this one out as well. Okay, and the rest of this will stay in here and continue to grow. All of the garlic, some more of the beets, and a couple more turnips in here as well. So they'll continue to grow. Holy moly, look at the leaves on these. Isn't that a lot? And a lot of these greens are also edible, especially the beet greens. And the beet leaves, you can use them just like you would spinach or kale or anything like that. So make sure you don't throw them all out. Make sure you use them in a few of your stir-fry dishes. All right, let's go harvest some peppers that I know are absolutely ready. So these are the Caribbean sweet peppers that I've been growing that I just harvested. Don't know the exact variety though, unfortunately, but it does look like it's going to be quite a spicy pepper just by how wrinkly they are. I'm hoping they won't be though, because I'm not a huge spice person. But they're so healthy, probably one of the more healthier plants I have growing in my entire garden this year. And I think they're also pest free because the pests just don't know what to make of this plant really. It's not something they're familiar with. Order all of my organic seeds from Hawthorne Farm. And if you're in Canada, that's who I get my seeds from. On this side of the garden, I have some containers. It looks like it's overrun with weeds, but it's really not. There's a lot of pumpkins growing in here. I have this huge container full of sweet potatoes, and I have other containers full of sweet potatoes. But you see how this one is getting damaged by some pests? So this is just an example of how the pests can take over in one area. But if you're growing in microclimates and you have other sweet potato plants sprinkled around other areas of your garden, you can probably avoid a lot of the pest damage that this one would succumb to. The other ones probably won't. You can see this pumpkin here, it's just vining and it's gonna run all over. I'm gonna try and encourage it to go this way. Growing in microclimates is also a great way to experiment with your soil and your growing ability. So if you have been growing in containers and you want to experiment with a small plot and see how it goes in ground or in a raised bed, then you can experiment by tossing in just a few plants into that area to see how they do. You might be pleasantly surprised that some of your vegetables might do better in that area that you thought maybe had poor soil or wasn't a great area for gardening. Doing it in microclimates will also give you an opportunity to experiment to see where your plants grow best. This right here is the second area that I planted my corn. We have wild rabbits here, and they were just eating the tops of the corn. So that's why I planted some of my corn on the other side of my property, which wasn't touched by anything. Beautiful, growing so well, no bunnies touched it. But if I had relied on only this one plot for corn, I would have been pretty disappointed. make sure you experiment and see what you can grow in different areas. You know, growing some things in the shade, some things in directly in ground in different areas of your property, just to see how the soil is and to see what the growing conditions are like. You can also grow in microclimates like under trees. This is a big maple tree that we tap every couple of years, but you can also grow vegetables and shade-loving crops under this tree because it has natural shade pretty much all day. So if you have herbs, or even if you have some brassicas that you want to plant now and have them grow throughout the fall, you want to keep them in a shadier spot, plant them under your tree, which is a great little microclimate area. Here are some other examples of how microclimating works. So for example, if you're starting some early spring crops and maybe they're outside or they're in a greenhouse and they're calling for frost, you can add like some kind of cover over top of the plants. You can add some milk jugs on top, something that's going to retain the heat. You can also plant veggies in hotbeds or on top of compost piles. There are so many different ways you can practice microclimating. You just have to be a little creative. Another great microclimate area is in a greenhouse. Now, you don't have to spend too much on greenhouses. This is just a small, rather inexpensive greenhouse that I bought off of Amazon. You can find them at most of the big box stores nowadays for fairly reasonable price. So this is a great microclimate for growing really heat-loving vegetables like peppers. This greenhouse has a shade cloth on top of it, so it's not as warm in here as it could be. It could definitely be a lot hotter if there wasn't shade cloth in here. I'd probably have a harder time growing in here as well because it just gets way too warm. But adding a shade cloth really does reduce the amount of heat that stays in here. I have all of the windows open as well as the front rolled up. But this is a perfect little microclimate for vegetables like peppers, eggplants, even tomatoes, because those things love the really warm weather, especially peppers. Let me get a couple of these Hungarian waxes. Growing your tomatoes in a greenhouse is also really good because it prevents the tomatoes from getting scalded by the really hot direct sun on those really warm days. Grow peppers in a greenhouse area because, or at least somewhere that has some cover from the elements. It keeps the humidity in, and somewhere that's just going to keep the peppers warmer than it would be if I just had them outside, including the eggplants as well. I have eggplants also in the ground, but I like to keep some in here because I'm guaranteed I'll get a harvest and some healthier plants, less pests as well. If you're also growing things like exotic plants like this mango here, and some pineapple tops, you'll probably want to keep them in a warmer area than just keeping them outside because it's a warmer, more humid and tropical atmosphere in here, which is exactly what they like. Even this lemon over here. I also love growing in containers and growing in the grow bags, so that's something I will do regardless. But I also think it's a great way to healthier plants, because if your plants are getting attacked by pests or disease in one area, you can always fall back on a harvest or a crop in another area by planting in microclimates. Well, I hope that helped you guys. If you learned anything from the video today, make sure you go ahead and like the video. It really does help me out. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Stay peaceful.